Front and Center. Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Good morning to all of our listeners here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Welcome to another edition of Front and Center, where we put very significant issues affecting our country, the Philippines, as our program title says, Front and Center. On behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, I am your host for today, Steph Vicente, joining you all for a 30-minute worth of talk discussing important matters with our government officials, people from the private sector, or even members of the academe. As seen through our video live streaming, you may watch and listen to Front and Center through our Facebook page. Just search Radyo Pilipinas World Service. The same goes for our YouTube channel. Meanwhile, we also have an audio live streaming thanks to the Evox PBS Receiver app. You may download the said app via Google Play Store if you are using an Android phone or via App Store if you are using an iPhone. Before we proceed to our main topic for today's episode, I will just read here some news items that discuss some issues that are equally significant. First, the Philippine Department of Energy or DOE is further boosting renewable energy or RE development by working with the Manila-based Asian Development Bank or ADB and the National Electrification Administration or NEA for a single window auction. The Philippine News Agency reported that DOE Assistant Secretary Mylene Capongol said during the 15th anniversary celebration of the Philippine Solar and Storage Energy Alliance in Pasig on Tuesday that they will bid out available NEA facilities for RE development with complete information and package. Asa Capongol said they are waiting for the detailed proposal and the policy framework from the ADB, which will serve as a transaction advisor, and the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement with NEA will follow. She also expressed optimism for the program, noting that the Philippines is the second in the world in terms of being an attractive market for renewable energy. The government bids to increase the share of RE in the total energy mix of the country to about 35% by 2035 and 50% by 2040. To date, RE share in the country's energy mix is around 22%. Capongol said there are currently around 544 active solar projects nationwide with a total installed capacity of around 2,425 megawatts. This capacity is provided by roof-mounted, ground-mounted, and floating energy sources. Meanwhile, enhanced guidelines on the digitalization among Philippine banks will be released within the year to level the playing field. That's according to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP. The Philippine News Agency reported that BSP Deputy Governor Chuchi Fonacier, in her speech during the Chamber of Thrift Banks or CTB convention in Makati City on Tuesday, cited the rising number of banks that adopt digital platforms to provide better services and products. Citing BSP data, she said about 73.2% of the 41 thrift banks in the country have electronic payment and financial services or EFPS licenses. In particular, 48.8% of TBs provide InstaPay and 43.9% offers PesoNet service, both of which are electronic fund transfer services under the BSP's National Retail Payment System or NRPS program. With more banks providing electronic payments, Fonasier said they need to assess financial institutions' level of digital centricity to establish the indicators that will be considered in assessing the level of digital centricity of said banks, among others, to ensure proportionate application of prudential requirements. In an interview on the sidelines of the event, the BSP official further explained that they will require banks to have higher capital for their digitalization bid. Digital banks, which the BSP defines as financial institutions that offer financial products and services that are processed end-to-end through a digital platform and or electronic channels with no physical branches, are required to have a minimum capital of 1 billion pesos. We will just have a short break here in our program Front and Center. Hopefully, we could have our guest with us later on. So here is our short break. We will come back after a few announcements from our station.
Paliwanag mo sa tao na hindi totoo yan.
Dahil ang totoo, yung totoo ang dapat ninyong malaman.
Nagkalat sa internet ang fake news
Ang
o
ginagawa
mali
ng
at
fake news, tinatapon niya yung tao.
What they are doing is creating panic.
We say no.
Yung pagkalat ng fake news. And some of it's dangerous.
Sana iwasan po natin pagsispread ng fake news.
At di magpapakalat ng disinformation at misinformation ang kasulukuyang administrasyon.
Stop telling us fake news because you're wrong.
Para sa totoo at mapagkakatiwalaang mga balita at impormasyon, Radyo Pilipinas.
Calling all runners out there. Ipakita ang pagmamahal sa inang bayan at soberanya. Halina't makilahok sa takbo para sa West Philippine Sea 2025 sa Quirino Grandstand, Manila sa darating na July 27, 2025. Mayroon itong tatlong kategorya, 3K, 5K, at 10K. Race shirts are provided to all registered participants. Hayaan ang mga yabag ng ating mga paa ang maging simbolo ng nag-aalab na pagmamahal at pakikibaka para sa West Philippine Sea. Para sa registration at karagdagang detalye, bisitahin ang official Facebook page ng Philippine Information Agency. Isang mensahe mula sa PIA at ng himpilang ito.
Nabiktima ka na ba ng fake news sa panahon ng digital media? Learn how to spot fake news. Check the source. Kung di legit, dapat magduda. Check the purpose. Informative or troll post at clickbait lang. Check the ownership. Mapagkakatiwalaan ba ang pinagkukuhanan nito? Check the time and date. Baka naman outdated na yung news na yan, ha? SPOT. Together, let's spot fake news. Tiyakin ang katotohanan, fake news ay labanan.
A friendly message from PCO, DepEd, CHED, DSWD, DILG, PBS at Radyo Pilipinas.
Front and Center. Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
And now we're back here in Front and Center. For today's edition of our program, we will be talking about the proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act, also known as an act establishing a comprehensive and inclusive data transmission and connectivity framework for the Philippines. Basically, the aforementioned bill's goal is to expand internet access and improve digital services across the country. The proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act is said to be designed to create a more competitive, accessible, and secure digital landscape in the Philippines by removing barriers to entry, promoting infrastructure sharing, and encouraging open access to data transmission networks. The bill allows new and smaller players to invest in data transmission infrastructure without requiring a legislative franchise, which is considered an outdated requirement unique to the Philippines. This landmark policy reform, considered to be a game changer, was even certified urgent by Philippine President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr. A lot of groups in different sectors have expressed their support towards the proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act. Just this week, about 53 Philippine medical and healthcare associations are urging President Marcos to sign the Konektadong Pinoy Bill into law, citing the need for connectivity to advance healthcare system in the country. Philippine Medical Association President Hector Santos said in a media release that without connectivity, many rural health units cannot view or submit electronic records and conduct other critical tasks, representing a barrier to healthcare access for many communities in the countryside. The aforementioned association further stated that digital divide has resulted in a drop in telemedicine in the country, which is largely caused by poor connectivity. In a joint statement issued just last Saturday, 6 leading industry groups, Global AI Council Philippines, Blockchain Council of the Philippines, Cybersecurity Council of the Philippines, Data Center Association of the Philippines, FinTech Philippines Association, and Go Digital Philippines said they consider the proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act as a major step toward building a more inclusive and competitive digital economy as it empowers consumers through better service standards and strengthens the ability of small businesses, startups, and communities to participate meaningfully in the digital space. However, the coalition urged lawmakers to scrap any data localization of or sovereignty provisions in the final version of the measure. These refer to requirements that data be stored or processed strictly within Philippine borders. They added that the country already has existing safeguards under the Data Privacy Act and is aligned with international best practices like the APEC cross-border privacy rules, making data localization unnecessary. Meanwhile, also in a joint statement, the Scam Watch Pilipinas, Women in Security Alliance Philippines, Philippines Chief Information Officer Association, PhilDev SNT Foundation, and BPO Cybersecurity Council expressed support for the bill and called for stronger safeguards to be embedded directly into the law. And to talk more about this joint statement, we are now joined by the chairperson of the Women in Security Alliance Philippines, Ms. Mel Migrino. Ms. Migrino, welcome to Front and Center. This is Steph Vicente again of Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Yes, hi everyone. Actually, good morning. Magandang umaga po. Hi, Steph. So actually, thank you so much for actually inviting us, yes, in your show.
Yes, thank you again, Ms. Migrino, for joining us here in the program. As mentioned just earlier, your organization, alongside Scam Watch Pilipinas, Philippines Chief Information Officer Association, PhilDev SNT Foundation, and BPO Cybersecurity Council released a joint statement expressing support for the proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act. First of all, why do you support the said bill?
Okay, so actually, as far as this bill is concerned, right, the KPA, we believe that the KPA has a very good potential. Why? Because it will practically make everyone, practically everyone in the Philippines, especially those of our, fellow Filipinos who are actually living or working, in far-flung areas, far provinces. It will enable them, to because of this bill, to actually access the different online or let's say digital services. And like what you have been mentioning earlier, because I was listening, very specific on the healthcare sector, no. So so because of this internet connectivity, we also see a better and faster information processing across, all segments of our society here in the country.
Now, in the said joint statement, you called alongside other organizations for stronger safeguards to be embedded directly into the proposed bill or proposed law. What
Correct.
are exactly the cyber security risk surrounding the proposed Konektadong Pinoy Act?
Okay, so let me step back a bit. Okay, so the Women in Security Alliance Philippines, together with Scamoch, Pilipinas, our friends from the Philippines Chief Information Officer Association, PhilDev, S&T, as well as BPO Security Council, we did a review of the bill. And while we actually believe in its strong potential, we believe that there are areas for improvement. Hence, we have posted several recommendations as far as the bill is concerned. So the first one, because the cybersecurity is stated in Section 9. So Section 9 speaks about the adoption. First one, Section 9 speaks about the adoption of the global or best practices in terms of cybersecurity, which is good. However, Section 9 of this bill states as well that there is a 3-year window wherein the DTIPs, right? So basically those are your data communication providers who will play a crucial part when this law would be finally implemented. So they are given actually a 3-year window for them to get the necessary information security or cybersecurity certification. So for us, as technology and cybersecurity practitioners in the country, we see that the 3-year window is a bit long. And with the 3-year window, it also opens to several risks. And this risk would actually pertain to majority would be around the supply chain risk or the cybersecurity risk that actually pertains to the different supply chain attacks. So what am I saying here? So basically, when this infrastructure or new addition in the country's national infrastructure, so there's going to be different players, and these different players would either be your upstream or downstream service providers. So usually in a supply chain attack, who brings you those different vulnerabilities? It's practically your newcomers or practically your new actors. And eventually, if they are vulnerable, they become your threat actor. So marami yan, Steph? So there could be different types of malware attacks. Kasama na dyan yung backdoors. And worst comes to worst, no? If there is no proper vetting, national vetting, kasi nakalagay din kasi for the DTIPs, right? Meron lang silang registration process. It's actually stated in the law, but the congressional franchise, as we all know, it will be eventually removed. But for them, as part of the initial onboarding process, is for them to register. We are perfectly fine in terms of registration. Dapat talaga. But the point that we are driving here is that registration, even prior to that, there has to be a national and security vetting in terms of cybersecurity, economic viability, geopolitical aspects. Why? Because as we know, maraming mga geopolitical conflicts, right? And right now, ang labanan na is already cyber warfare. So, kasama na dyan kasi yung cyber espionage. Cyber espionage, in that perspective, can steal, highly confidential, classified information in the different segments of the society. Kasama dyan ng government. So, yun yung mga iniiwasan namin. And then the third one, I've also read, there is a section on the imposition of penalties, which is good. However, ang gusto sana namin dong i-recommend is that yes, it is good that whoever is that DTIP gets to be penalized in the event that this DTIP failed or missed to actually secure the necessary information security or cybersecurity certification for that matter. However, we also need to actually understand that an entity, a business entity, getting a cybersecurity or information security certification doesn't really warrant that you are 100% compliant, right? So if you are not 100% compliant, meaning in the realm of cybersecurity, there will always be open doors. There will always be vulnerabilities. There will always be elements within your attack surface. So, yung elements mo in your attack surface, those open doors makes it available or open to attackers, scammers, in general, adversary. So, ibig sabihin, pwede ka pa rin, you are still susceptible for a cybersecurity incident or data leakage for that matter. So, ang suggestion sana namin dyan, for consideration is that sana they would also acknowledge na in the event of an incident going through a due process of investigation and the DTIP is found negligent, so they should also be penalized. So I guess these are some of the risks that we have properly articulated in our joint statement that we released early this week, Steph.
Since you have mentioned the cyber security risk, I just want to share that, of course, the ICT assured also just yesterday strong cybersecurity measures behind the Konektadong Pinoy bill and acknowledged concerns raised by private sector stakeholders. The department also clarified that deregulation at the expense of security or public interest will never be allowed. Now that you have mentioned earlier the cybersecurity risk, aside from some that you mentioned just earlier, what are the measures that should be also done by the government to strengthen this proposed law?
Okay. I think there are several ways no on how we can potentially address the risk. But I guess I just wanted to like to highlight to everyone no there has to be clarity with regard to the KPA. It is really good no because the ICT acknowledge it, so we are actually happy with that, pero siguro it would be good if there is a proper articulation in the KPA. Why? Because what is written in the KPA, how you articulate it there goes down to your IRR. 'Di ba? Kasi like all the clarifications were surfaced yesterday and we greatly appreciate it. Maraming salamat po sa mga kaibigan po natin from DICT, CICC. Yeah, so if you know, if given the opportunity, yun sana yung we would like to recommend and you know those provisions to be properly articulated before KPA gets finally approved by the Office of the President. So to us, these are some of the things no para siguro ma-address yung risk. Well, of course, one should be during the IRR formulation, there has to be a comprehensive consultation to all of the key stakeholders no. Kasama na diyan private sector, security experts, 'di ba? As well as of course the government key stakeholders. Now, I think the next one would be, of course, there will be several goals that will be set, right? So there has to be metrics that needs to be imposed in terms of not only monitoring the performance, no? Kasi meron kang performance monitoring for your DTIPs, di ba? But you should also have performance monitoring as far as the risk management perspective is concerned. And having said that, doon na pumupunta kasi yung iba't iba mong digital risk. And then I guess the other thing would be, I think from both government as well as private sector is concerned, we need to prepare the resources. So when I speak about resources, we need to make sure that that we have the adequate funding, we have the adequate human resource, highly skilled personnel who would have the experience, no, the deep dive experience in terms of operationalizing, 'di ba? This bill and in terms of securing the infrastructure. So there goes your infrastructure as well as the data and all of those elements within the ecosystem of this bill. Other things would be siguro yung yung adoption. I think for the technology and cybersecurity practitioners who are actually listening now, so they are very much aware. So while we acknowledge ISO standards, which is very good, it's actually stated in the draft bill. I think it has to be complemented as well with other global standards and practices. But not only that, it's practically the adoption of a zero trust mindset. So not only the mindset framework together with the supporting architecture. Why? Because in the perspective of zero trust, so basically there is there is a process wherein it needs to be vetted or it needs to be verified before authorization. Once it's authorized, then you do as well your continuous monitoring. So in a nutshell, Steph, you don't stop monitoring, you don't stop verifying, and in this kind of mindset. So I think these are actually marami yan, ano, but in the interest of time, no. But I guess the zero trust in itself, the full context plus the mindset is one thing also that we wanted to highlight. And it doesn't only adapt for the government sector, no, more so as well for all the private sectors, lalo na yung directly maapektuhan nitong bill na to.
And just in case the Konektadong Pinoy bill becomes a law, since we're just waiting for the signature of the president, aside from what you mentioned, of course, the monitoring and all, what would be the key roles of cybersecurity specialists or experts like you in the implementation of this?
Actually, from a technology and cybersecurity perspective, let's say if I'm coming from the business enterprise, right? I think on a holistic perspective, we do have a national cybersecurity plan. So we need to make sure that we properly operationalize it, because the priority of the national cybersecurity plan would really delve around the compliance of those sectors or of those companies who are part of the critical industry, right? Or those who are processing CII, actually, for that matter. And then other things, of course, is to really understand what are the nitty-gritty provisions of the bill and make sure that everyone actually gets to comply. And also, it will be good as well if there is, an effective sounding board. So meaning, this is the first time that we're doing it. Of course, there will be areas for improvement along the way. So it will be good that there will be like FDGs, with the government proponents, the ICT, NTC, right? In terms of how effective and what are those, areas for improvement that the main proponent can actually put forward and eventually improve. And then I think the last one is, so since we're talking here of the entry of foreign entities, right? It will be good to integrate cyber threat intelligence or intelligence as a whole, right? On the manner that they will operationalize it. Regardless, if you are coming from the government or if you are one of those from the private sector, ensure that there has to be actionable intelligence, so that this is something that you can put into your daily operations as far as securing critical infrastructure. Thank you.
Okay, and before I let you go, do you have any final message for our listeners here in the program Front and Center?
Okay, so as far as our group is concerned, we highly support, KPA. We see it as, really a very important milestone in terms of achieving digital economy for the Philippines. However, subject for your consideration, we would also ask you to, not only acknowledge but really put forward the 4-point agenda or the recommendations that we have stated in our joint statement, because we strongly believe that cybersecurity is not only an enabler at the enterprise level, but cybersecurity together with data privacy are key enablers in achieving, a secure and robust, digital Pilipinas, making its own significant space within the ASEAN region and, of course, within the global space. Thank you.
And with that, thank you very much, Ms. Migrino, for joining us here in the program Front and Center.
Sure. Thank you.
And we were just joined by the chairperson of the Women in Security Alliance Philippines, Ms. Mel Migrino. And that ends today's edition of Front and Center. We would just want to thank our production and technical staff for joining us to make this program possible. And thank you as well to our station manager, Mr. Ray Sampang. Until the next episode of Front and Center, on behalf of our colleague Jerome Toledo, this has been your host, Steph Vicente. Good day and stay safe, everyone.
Front and center. Front and center. A focus on you have just heard and watched. Front and center. Front and center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and center.